This is Covering the Spread, part of the FanDuel Podcast Network.
Brian Harman running away with the Open Championship this past weekend at Royal Liverpool. He is good for him. Not in action this weekend at the 3M Open. They are at TPC Twin Cities, so actually it's his loss. Doesn't get to go to the best state in the entire country, but Tony Finau does, Sung Jae does, Hideki Matsuyama does. We're going to break down this week's 3M Open by talking to Brandon Gdula, getting his read on this week's field and getting you ready to log some PGA bets over at FanDuel Sportsbook. This is Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network. My name is Jim Sonis. I am a managing editor of digital media for FanDuel Research, joined here, as mentioned, by Brandon Gdula, managing editor of FanDuel Research. Or do you want me to say numberFire? I actually don't know. I didn't ask you beforehand what you preferred for your title. Anyway, Brandon is here. Find him on Twitter at Gdula13. How you doing today?
I'm good. Yeah, coming off of last week, you mentioned Brian Harman off the top. I'm sure that you enjoyed not watching any golf, really, because that's what you prefer.
I did watch some, but I was at a wedding, so
yeah. I'm sure the happily married couple will love to hear that when they listen to this show.
Yes, I'm in a golf contest with the groom.
Okay, so it is okay.
Yeah,
so you. Yeah, all right.
One of the groomsmen is also we do it's a 3 or a 2 and done where you pick 3 golfers per week, but you can have 2 uses per. I'm up to 11th and the top 8 cash. So I'm in a pressure situation. I think he actually does understand in the situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well then, I tried to gotcha you, but I couldn't.
It's worth a shot.
Yeah, but boy, I played in a golf scramble on Sunday, so I was able to avoid everything. Nobody mentioned anything about the Open. I understand why. No one was really tracking it. But yeah, I got home unspoiled, got the DVR all set up, and I just found myself fast forwarding through most of it. And we like Brian Harman. We talk about him kind of a lot, but not the most exciting major. But now we're on to TPC Twin Cities and then the FedEx Cup, which everybody loves the FedEx Cup.
Honestly, I feel like it's kind of disrespectful to the Open Championship to have the 3M Open right after it, because the biggest tournament on the entire tour up in the Twin Cities in Blaine, it's that's a tough task, a tough event to proceed. So
everyone was just last week, it's the Open, Royal Liverpool. But nobody could stop talking about the 3M Open at TPC Twin Cities.
That's why JT shot 84 or whatever it was. He was like, man.
Looking ahead, yeah.
Yeah, gear it up. He's 75th in the FedEx Cup standings. Got to get ready for TPC Twin Cities. And, I don't think we'll be talking about Justin Thomas later on as far as betting recommendations, but he is in the field for this week. We'll break down this field outline, where Brandon is seeing value, and much more over at FanDuel Sportsbook. But first, a reminder to make sure you're subscribed to Covering the Spread wherever you get your podcasts. Our preview of Wednesday's match between the U.S. and Netherlands is now posted. We talked to Dr. Ed Feng yesterday, getting his read on the U.S.'s first game against Vietnam, talking about that Netherlands match and much more. Initial takeaways from the Women's World Cup. Find that on the Covering the Spread podcast feed and the FanDuel YouTube page and over on FanDuel TV+. We've got some exciting news over at numberFire beginning now. You can find all the numberFire content from the analysts like Brandon, over at a new home called FanDuel Research. FanDuel Research is on the FanDuel domain, meaning you can now do your own research on the same site where you place bets and submit daily fantasy lineups. And don't worry, all the numberFire tools are still in place over at numberFire.com, so your daily process can remain the same for now. Projections may or may not have been done this morning, but they'll be back up soon, I promise. That was not part of all this. They'll be back, promise. As a thank you for your years of loyalty, we'll be running free rolls over at FanDuel Research now through the end of the NFL season. To check out this week's free play for the Women's World Cup, go to the Welcome to FanDuel Research article over on FanDuel Research. Again, Welcome to FanDuel Research article on FanDuel Research. Get that at FanDuel.com/research. And while you're there, be sure to check out all the great content available. I'll be having my F1 sims over there, Truck Series sims, Xfinity Series sims, all over on FanDuel Research. Brandon's golf stuff will be there as well. So basically everything you liked from numberFire, the content stuff, is now over at FanDuel.com/research. So go check that out, peruse the very pretty site that all the engineers did a fantastic job on, and let us know what you think. Let's dive in now to this week's 3M Open and break down TPC Twin Cities hosts this week's event. It's a relatively new course in the PGA Tour, Brandon, but we have a couple years of data at this point. So what has stood out to you in the first few renditions of the 3M Open at TPC Twin Cities?
Yeah, it's in one of these courses where if you look at the past winners, you might think a certain thing. So past winners, Tony Finau, Cameron Champ, Michael Thompson, and Matthew Wolff. Three of those guys come to mind as just big hitters off the tee. And then there's Michael Thompson, who just led in strokes gained putting. I think he was top 5 in iron play, so strokes gained approach as well the week that he won. Yeah, he was 4th. Not particularly good off the tee or around the green, but if you're 4th in approach play and 1st in putting, you're probably going to put yourself in a good situation most weeks. But it's not necessarily just a course where distance matters. And honestly, if you look at various tools around the internet, run your own numbers, you'll kind of see some importance on driving accuracy as well. But I don't really want to go that route this week. We need some scoring. The winning scores have been, we've had a 15, a 17, a 19, and a 21. So I think we're either going to get a 23 or a 21, right? I mean, what else is there to shoot here to win? But, so right in that like 18 under range, you're going to have to score. But yeah, to stick with like the off the tee stuff, longer hitters have won here. Accuracy can help out. So I'm looking at strokes gained off the tee. In addition to strokes gained approach, looking for ball strikers. I think that's the best route to go this week. And even that's even with the greens being a bit large. They average about 6,500 square feet. It's about 500 more square feet per green than the tour average. But, that the larger the green, you really can't be affording to miss the green and then rely on getting up and down. So not really looking for like around the green play necessarily this week. You got to score on the par 5s, so that distance is going to help out. Strokes it off the tee correlates more with distance than just accuracy anyway. So that's one thing to keep in mind. But, you got to score when you can. This is not like a 30 under winner, 25 under winner. Generally, we're looking for, again, like in that 18 under range. So you need to strike the ball well, got to make your putts. But yeah, overall, I think the ball strikers are going to win out at this course long term.
And that's interesting too, because typically when you're talking about ball strikers, you're talking about smaller greens because it's hard to like stick it on the pins and make it work like that. But the larger greens, it's interesting the dynamic between that. Do you have any like theories as to why that's the case? Why ball striking wins out so well at this specific course?
So you have to, in order to make birdies, you have to hit greens in regulation or greens in under regulation or hole out, which, if you have 72 holes, what you really want to do is put yourself in birdie position. And that's gaining strokes, with your either off the tee, but specifically with your approach play. And that's basically, the green size is what it is, but it comes down to giving yourself those looks and then making those looks. As with any course, golfers who finish well here do putt well. So I don't want to make it sound like, if you just hit the greens in regulation, you're going to win. Like the leader in greens in regulation is going to win. It's going to be like the guy who has, top 15 greens in regulation numbers and putts the best out of those. It's one of those courses. So does add for some volatility. The lack of soup, if you back off, if you follow golf, a lot of these names at the top, but not a whole lot of like true unblemished superstars in the field. So I think volatility is going to be a bit of the name of the game. So obviously the win odds starting at 14-1. My simulation model doesn't have anyone above like 5.5%. So it's just one of those weeks. But yeah, I think that's really what we're seeing with the larger greens, and they're not massive. They're just a little bit larger than average. So yeah, but there is a strong correlation between green size and the importance of strokes gained approach week in, week out.
Well, you referenced the odds. Let's take a look at those right now over at FanDuel Sportsbook, where we see Sung J M and Cameron Young as the co-favorites. They're both 14-1. Hideki Matsuyama and Tony Finau, the defending champ, both 16-1. Then it falls off with Emiliano Grillo and the aforementioned Justin Thomas, plus Sepp Straka, all at 25-1. So let's start things off here with those four favorites, Brandon. Sung J M, Cameron Young, Tony Finau, Hideki Matsuyama. Any value for you in those four favorites right now?
No. I have Finau fairly close. But what we're looking at is there's not a clear favorite, and you're not getting enough necessarily like leverage, at least according to what my model says. I have Finau at 17-1, so I don't hate that.
Mm-hmm.
That's something that we talk about often. That's within reason for me to want to bet. My model has Hideki Matsuyama at 19-1 instead of 16-1. But again, going back to like the theory here, these are household names to like golf fans, but not like, nationwide basically. So it's just it's a strange week where the field's not completely wide open, but at the top, I'm just seeing some names that are a little bit overvalued. But we did see some movement among these four, and that's also something to note here. Sung J M was 18-1 on Monday. He's now 14 on Tuesday. Hideki Matsuyama 18-16, but Young and Finau lengthened from 12 to 14 and 16 respectively. So if that means anything to you, just want to kind of shout that out there. But if I had to get to anyone, it'd be Tony Finau among the top four. He's very close to showing value, and Finau's been a kind of a nuisance for me in my model where, I look at the past 52 weeks, I scale things for recency, for field strength. Finau toward like the tail end of that past calendar year has a lot of good finishes. He won the Mexico Open in April by 3 shots. Like, he's not that far off. He just hasn't done a ton right now. So my model usually likes him, but I did scale things back a little bit in terms of how much I'm looking at recency, kind of downplaying stuff that's a little bit longer in that sample. But if I did not do that, I'm sure my model would have liked Tony Finau. So he's the name that I'm really eyeing among those four, but nobody really stands out as a screaming value.
The other ripple effect of not showing value on the favorites is that there is a lot of win equity for others on the board. So when you look at other outrights available at FanDuel Sportsbook, Brandon, anybody popping to you as being a value you'd want to take?
Yeah, it's more in the mid-range. Aaron Rai, 45-1, is a name that I've been in on a good bit. He is 5th in the field in strokes gained tee to green over the past 50 rounds, according to Data Golf, and their numbers adjust for field strength. The issue for Rye is the putter. It's never what you quite want it to be. And from within 15 feet on the PGA Tour this season, he's a 25th percentile putter, which is basically, you have some control over the putts within 15 feet. After that, gets a little bit out of your control, a little bit more luck. That's why I like to look at that stat based on the research I've done. Hasn't played the course, but again, not a whole lot of course knowledge to go around. Although another reason why I'm into Tony Finau is that he's just been so good. Not just the win, but he's been great here. So, but yeah, I don't think that matters too much just based on the fact that it's still a new course. But Aaron Rai at 45, someone that I like. And then Ryan Fox at 50-1 as well. Kind of fits the mold of the recent winners here. Really long off the tee. Sort of a good all-around player, but not necessarily someone with a profile that jumps off the page. Just should be able to get himself in contention. He is 33rd or better in all 4 strokes gained stats over the past 50 rounds. He's 19th in approach, top 20 in distance. Again, just kind of if you pull up the Wikipedia page and see Ryan Fox in addition to Matthew Wolff, Tony Finau, Cameron Champ, you're like, okay, that makes sense. So Rye, Fox, and again, I just to clarify, I like Finau even at 16 because my model doesn't factor in course history. So I'd get there with Finau, but keep it with Ryan Fox in the mid range this week.
Again, Aaron Rye at 45-1, Fox at 50-1. I'm going to ask you about this guy now because I know he'll come up later on too. But Sahith Theegala is a guy who grades that really well if you pull the past 6 months of data golf, which is what I do. Problem is, if you pull up the most recent form, his irons have gone in the pooper real fast. So Theegala, if you're looking at just data golf's numbers, would probably appear as a value 50-1. The irons worry me. It's only an 8-round sample because there are 2 missed cuts in there. So it's a small sample. I think you say typically around 12 or so is where numbers like that stabilize. So any interest for you in Theegala, or is the recent form worrisome enough to scare you away?
So he's another one who's been a bit of a nuisance for me with when it comes to modeling, just because there's been a bit of a drop off. It's been really like precipitous the past 3 events for him in terms of the iron play, but he had a lot of close calls and then kind of tapered off a bit. And so you saw his win odds go way too short because he was playing well and putting well. Then the putter cooled off a bit. The irons came back to earth a bit. And he was still too short. And then he got into that point where he was long enough where the long-term data said he's a value. Now he's about fair. I almost recommended him as well.
Yeah.
But the fact that we don't have as much confidence, again, like you pointed out, 2 events, 2 straight missed cuts is not enough to sort of back off of someone. But it's sort of a longer term thing where he's a fair value. He's no longer a standout, but he's also not where he used to be, is just totally overvalued. So it's a really appealing name. I kind of had a feeling as soon as you said something, that's who you're going to talk about. But if you really go event by event, the off the tee, like the driver kind of fell off. Now it's the irons. It just doesn't seem like it's there, but he could win this week. It wouldn't shock anyone, but I don't see value, but I also don't see him as a bad bet.
Okay, so the 2 that Brandon does like are Aaron Rye 45-1 and Ryan Fox at 51. Let's talk about the non-outrights now, Brandon. Anything you see there that you like right now at FanDuel Sportsbook?
Yeah, I'll stick with Rye. Top Englishman plus 125. Not a whole lot of tough competition for him. He's up against Callum Tarrant, Matt Wallace, Harry Hall, and Ben Taylor. So definitely a plus in that department. Nobody else in the group is better than 60th in strokes gained tee to green over the past 50 rounds. Rye is 5th. Love that advantage. Modeled that one out. Saw some value. So if you don't want to get to Rye as an outright, or if you just want to, take this one as well, I think that makes sense. And then 3 names for top 20s jumped out to me. Steven Jaeger, he's plus 230. Strong tee to green game, 7th in the field there. Gains off the tee, putts well enough to finish top 20 in a field like this. And then 2 names that I think are back-to-back here, so you don't have to scroll once you find the first one. Adam Svensson, plus 420. I have him at plus 385. He's a great putter with a solid tee to green game. And then Sam Stevens, top 20, plus 430. I have him at plus 395. Bad putter. So not the same as Svensson, not the same case here. Really bad putter, but 18th in ball striking in the field. And so he should be able to pick up those birdie chances, get some eagle chances. So yeah, Stevens, Svensson, and Jaeger top 20s are some ways that I'm trying to get access to this field that's not just outrights.
Got some bad news. Got
up?
some guys who shortened. Sam Stevens now plus 380. Is that too far for you for a top 20?
So I had him plus 395.
Okay, so no value on Sam Stevens at FanDuel, but you could shop around as always, try to find that. So probably looking plus 410 or so. This hasn't been
abrupt too because I just refreshed this stuff.
Yeah, they knew. Like they found your rundown, and they knew. So if you can get Stevens like 410 or so, I think that'd probably be the break even point where you'd show enough value to bite on him. Svensson is still plus 420, so that one's good to go.
Okay.
Jaeger did shorten to 210. Is that still okay by you?
I'd probably still get there, but not go a full unit.
Okay. So shop around on Jaeger and Stevens. If you can get Jaeger, you said 230 he was before, correct?
He was 230, yeah.
Yeah, so if you can find a 230 or so on Jaeger somewhere out there, that'd be a good one. Stevens, plus 410 or so. Brandon has him at 395, so shop around on that one. But then Svensson is the one at FanDuel Sportsbook, plus 420 as potentially one you could turn to there, on top of Aaron Rides being the top Englishman. So that's always the fun dynamic. Is it's good when your model is in line with where the money is coming, because it means that other smart people putting money in the market agree with you. It also means those numbers shorten, and that can be very annoying. But Brandon, I feel like it's got to be good to get the confirmation. People are on your side. Other people agree with your model, and even in a weird event, still hopefully identifying some good value for this week.
Yeah, it's a good lesson too. Just be present. Look, know kind of what you're looking for. See if things move. Maybe, and sometimes they move in your favor. So if you wanted to bet Finau and his odds lengthened, I mean, I wasn't going to consider him where he was, but now I'm considering him. So it goes both ways.
Yeah, bet early when you can if you're able to. Be price sensitive if stuff moves and it's no longer a value. Be okay backing off, and take that into account when trying to fill out your bet slip. That is all that we have here for today to preview the 3M Open. Once again, though, do want to remind you, we do have our preview up of the USA versus Netherlands for the FIFA Women's World Cup, talking to Dr. Ed Feng about that. Also, in other takeaways from the Women's World Cup thus far, talked to Ed last night. That is up on the Covering the Spread podcast feed, the FanDuel YouTube page, and over on FanDuel TV Plus. You can find Brandon Gdula on Twitter at Gdula13. Check out all of his work over at FanDuel Research. Brandon, thank you as always, and I'll talk to you once again here in a couple of minutes for the Heat Check Fantasy Podcast.
Yeah, best of luck to everyone this week. Hope it's a good tournament.
Alrighty, again, find Brandon on Twitter at Gdula13. I am on Twitter at Jim Sannes, JIMSANNES. Want to thank you all for tuning in for today. Good luck to you with your bets across Tuesday. We'll talk to you once again tomorrow. This has been Covering the Spread right here on the FanDuel Podcast Network.